Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, and welcome to Autocrat. I am Vince.
I'm Cassie.
And this is episode 4, Uncle Uprising, the sequel.
We're gonna talk about giants.
Yes, so we mentioned Typhon last time, who rose up against Zeus, and either before or after that, Gaia also set the giants loose on Zeus.
Ooh.
Which firstly is fun to say, and secondly means he's not out of the woods yet when it comes to divine uprisings.
Will he ever be? We don't know. That remains to be seen.
We'll find out. So, if you remember from episode 1, we have discussed the giants before. We mentioned how they were born from the drops of blood that Uranos shed when he was castrated, and the drops of blood fell to the ground, and at the end of the year the giants were born, among many other children. However, there are some different family trees out there, as we'll discuss. By one version, Gaia had the giants by Uranos to avenge the Titans, making them full siblings of the Titans and the Titanides, and full uncles of Zeus.
Nice.
Now, a different source, Guerber, doesn't talk about the giants collectively, but just says that a giant called Enceladus was sent to fight Zeus.
Just one.
Yeah. A different source, namely the Homeric hymns, mentions in its index that Enceladus was the son of Gaia and Tartarus, making him a half-uncle of Zeus and a full brother of Typhon, and possibly Echidna, as we discussed in episode 3.
Okay.
However, we've had the main version already in episode 1, which is the castration of Uranos and the drops of blood falling to the ground and forming the giants themselves. A prophecy by an unnamed oracle, which the gods all knew about, said that gods couldn't kill gods but mortals could, so in this case applying to the giants as well.
And good, another prophecy.
Yeah, we will probably come back to this when we actually get to things like the Iliad, because although I haven't read it yet, I'd be curious to see how this plays out when, from memory, a mortal called Diomedes starts fighting all of the divine beings on the battlefield. I'm sure we'll come back to that in however many episodes' time that is. Gaia knew about this prophecy, so I'm assuming she isn't the one making it, or if she is, you would be aware of it if you're making it, I suppose.
She might have hidden it.
She might have done. But Gaia knew about it and tried to stop a mortal from being able to kill her children, so in this version...
She would do that.
Yeah, so in this version, they are the kids of Gaia and Uranos.
Even though she wants to prevent the murdering of her children, but she was okay with Zeus being murdered.
Yeah, she's okay with her children rising up to defeat her grandchildren, sure. However, Zeus then summoned a famous name from Greek mythology, Heracles, to help them. This is Heracles from the 12 Tasks of Hercules fame, if you're following the Roman mythology. The giants revived if they touched the earth. I think this refers to the ground of their birthland. But Heracles bodily brought the giant Alcyoneus outside Pallene on the council of Athena, and so he perished. So basically, he drags him outside of where he's born, where he's vulnerable, and then kills him.
Okay.
Porphyrion was set up by Hera and Heracles, so a tag teaming here from Hera, who we've discussed before, and her future stepson Heracles. Zeus set up a plan so that the giant Porphyrion was consumed by lust for Hera, and at the point where he would have done something unspeakable to her, I think he was already in the process of trying to take her clothes off, Zeus hit him with a thunderbolt and Heracles' arrow killed him.
Zeus does like his thunderbolt.
He does like his thunderbolts. I'm not sure how on board with this plan Hera would have been, but the text I found doesn't really say. We will see Heracles' arrows again, if I remember correctly, because they have their origin in the 12 Tasks of Heracles.
Nice.
Supposedly Pindar says that the leader of the giants was killed by Apollo, and arrows in the eyes from Apollo and Heracles killed Ephialtes, while Dionysus killed Eurytus. Hecate then set upon Clytius with torches. Hephaestus' boiling metal weapons being launched at him killed Mimas. As for Enceladus, who we started this story with, he ran away, but Athena killed him on Sicily.
So all those poor giants went down.
Yes, so basically this is a war between all the Olympians and all the giants, and it's not going too well for the giants themselves.
Clearly not.
Now, there's an alternative version of Enceladus' downfall, which is that he was defeated and chained in adamantine under Mount Etna. Now, do you remember Mount Etna, and why we've talked about it before?
Kind of remember, yeah, someone's buried under it.
Yes, potentially Typhon is underneath it.
That's
However, I did say in last episode there is an alternative version where there's someone else under Mount Etna, and well, we've come full circle because Enceladus might be underneath it. Now, he used to throw out fire and screams hoping to beat Zeus, and I'm assuming that again this refers to Mount Etna erupting. However, he has mostly calmed down today. Yeah, there is, from what I can see, a lot of this going on in Greek mythology explaining the world around them. We saw that with the syncretism, I suppose, as well, of the Greek gods turning into animals and thereby explaining Egyptian mythology.
Yeah.
He sometimes shifts in position underground, which causes earthquakes due to how huge he is. Enceladus also gets a mention in a Christian text by Jerome when stating that someone, I think it's Origen, but I'm not sure, is now buried between him and Porphyrion, and it says that there is a scorpion buried between Enceladus and Porphyrion.
There might be a significance to that.
Yeah, I have no idea what it actually means. I'd have to go back and study Jerome in more detail, but then again, Jerome is a source from, I believe, the 3rd or 4th century CE. I didn't check this, so don't quote me on that, listeners, but he's not with us for a long time, and I'm not sure what the significance of this particular quote would be. Anyway, I'm sure you're very keen to get back to Athena and her murderous rampage on Sicily.
Yes, please.
So she killed Pallas, another giant, and then took off his skin to use as protection in the fight. I'm assuming he just had very tough skin.
Yeah, but then he got killed, so how tough was his skin?
True, but then again, I'm not sure what with. It doesn't specify. Maybe she used something that didn't require actually hurting him by the skin.
Yeah, maybe she chopped his head off.
That would still penetrate his skin, though.
That remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen. The text doesn't say, guesses to the show's email address. Or not. Now, Poseidon took a part of the island of Kos and threw it on top of the fleeing giant Polybotes. Hermes, who was wearing Hades' helmet at this point, which supposedly made you invisible. Do you remember this helmet from a few episodes ago, by the way?
Can I have it?
The mythology doesn't say whether we still have it.
Well, I need it.
Well, it was made by Cyclopes, so it's probably got a very good warranty, even after all these millennia.
Nice.
It's a bit, again, we go back to a list of people who were killed by other people at this point. So Artemis killed Gratión, and Agrius and Theos, 2 more giants, were murdered by the Fates. Zeus and Heracles then dealt with the rest.
And that's the end of the giant.
Yep,
No?
Exactly. So we have now dealt with the giants. It's a very short story, as I hinted at last time, but it was just a separate thing from Typhon, so I felt it needed to be covered in a separate episode.
So, well, for this story, it's the giant under the mountain.
Under
right?
Mount Etna.
Under Mount Etna. That means that Typhon must have happened after, and he's buried somewhere else.
That's a good point. I didn't check whether that's consistent between the sources, as in whether this source says that Typhon happens afterwards. But in this version, you could probably assume that Typhon is in Tartarus, as we said last time, as one version has it. Now, there is an odd story in the Homeric hymns about a fight between mice and frogs in which the killing of Enceladus and the other giants by Zeus's thunderbolts is mentioned. I have no idea what this story refers to. I did have a bit of a skim through it, but it literally does seem to be a fight between different animals, and at some point they just mention that the giants were killed by Zeus's thunderbolts. So it's a fun little nugget that we may return back to, because who knows, maybe this story has some sort of allegorical significance. We may come back to it in a separate episode, but for now it's just another allusion in the sources out there to the fate of the giants. So that's about it today in terms of our actual topic, but we did have another announcement we wanted to mention, I think, didn't we?
Yes, we have a website.
We do. We have a website. We can be found at autocratpodcast.wordpress.com, and do you want to give a bit of an introduction to what we actually have on there?
Well, there's all the episodes.
Yep.
There is a timeline with the event and when they happen, in what order. There might be soon a little description about me and my co-host, who we are, our background, etc. And there's the bibliography.
Yeah, there's the bibliography as well, which will have sources split into 3 different categories, one of which is kind of made up, but does help. So first there's primary sources, so things
sources that are from either the time or really sources that are written by the person who was involved. I mean, this is mythology, so that's a bit different. But primary sources are usually the oldest and more reliable sources.
Yes. So, I don't know about reliability, but usually you can probably see it as someone will cite someone else who cites someone else who's first in that chain, who's the original person we got that information from. For example, like you said, in mythology it would be things like Apollodorus, the Homeric hymns, etc. We then get secondary sources, so in this category I like to put broad histories that we will probably later start looking at, but our friend Guerber and his collection of Greek myths would count in that field.
So what did you create as a subcategory then?
So I created something called tertiary sources, which is essentially where I'm putting all of the web-based information that I've accessed, which is not potentially as academically reliable as books or papers would be, but it is still where I got the information from. So I've created a subcategory of tertiary sources, even though that doesn't really exist as a concept as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
We will also have some family trees. So up to now, we only have one family tree on there of the relationships of the various Greek gods, which should cover you for the episodes we've covered so far.
Nice.
I think that's about all we've got on this so far.
Well, and if we've missed anything, well, just check it out and discover for yourself.
Exactly. We also have a contact email that we can be reached at that we haven't really plugged yet in the last few episodes, so we thought we might as well mention it here. If you in any way want to contact us, whether it be for questions or comments or even suggesting things we could have a look at in future episodes, whether main story or tangent, we can be reached at autocratpodcast@gmail.com. And with that, I think we've now come to everything we wanted to cover this week. So thank you very much for listening, and have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week.
So any thoughts or takeaways on the story of the giants as we fade out?
They're killing lots of people.
There's a lot of violence, yeah. I would like to tell you it settles down a little bit, but at least